Exactly what, and today's daf is very, very challenging. Okay, we had a machlokis between Rav and Shmuel when we have equally difficult usage of something. So the easiest usage, of course, is when it's parallel. Difficult is when you throw upwards, and difficult is also when you go down. So said Rav, in that scenario they both asa. Said Shmuel, the shilshul, the one that lowers it, gets the usage. So we had a kasha from here. We had a kasha from this case. You have a higher balcony and a lower balcony. The higher balcony has built in a mechitza, and this mechitza is for drawing water. It becomes rishus hayachid, and you're going to draw to a rishus from a carmelist, but it becomes rishus hayachid. So this lowers over here. He's going to have to throw. So the halacha is they're both aser, which would apparently be a raya to Rav, that when you go ahead and throw something and lower, they're both aser, not like Shmuel. So it was a question on Shmuel. So we answered, well, in fact, that's not the case. The fact it could be speaking where he didn't throw at all. The person in the lower chutzner, he went up to the upper chutzner. And by going up to the upper chutzner, they're both not guilty, they're both using shilshul. They're both going in and they're both lowering, okay? They're both lowering. I'm going to stop this for a second. Just 1 second. Now, so if they're both lowering, then it's not a tzushtel to Rav and Shmuel. So we answered yesterday, it's speaking where they're in 10 tefachim of each other. So when they're in 10 tefachim of each other, then will be considered, our din of usages goes out the window, guys. All the din of usages goes out the window, whether it's equal or not equal, or hard, lifting, throwing, lowering. That's only when it's two distinct rishuyos that are not within 10 tefachim. So therefore, the mechitzas that above here, the mechitzas, this is a biased teretz. Mechitzas that over here, when they're speaking, they're within 10 tefachim. Since they're in 10 tefachim, good, this one is lowering, which is easier, and this one is throwing, which is more difficult. Since they're in 10 tefachim of each other, this is the second teretz. Therefore, what? It's usher. Now, where do we know this from? So we touched on this yesterday, but we didn't go into it in great detail. Okay, here's the scenario. You have a house, and it's facing Rishus Harabim, and it's within 10 tefachim of each other. It's within 10 tefachim. In order to stop, so it seems to be that the usage is from the people in the Rishus Harabim and the people in the Aliyah. They both can use the gag. Again, it's not that high. They can both use it, and therefore they ask on each other. However, if they go ahead and put a ladder over here, that's going to make it theirs and not the Bnei Rishus Harabim. The question being, the Bnei Rishus Harabim practically probably have to throw something over here. There's Rika. And the Bnei Aliyah, right, they have easier usage. They're right over here. So what do you see? Since it's within 10 tefachim of each other, then the usage Torah goes out the window. And that's a bias araya when you have less than 10, right? When you have less than 10, that we don't view lowering or throwing because it's less than 10. Because if you would consider less than 10, why over here do they have to put a ladder, fellas? Obviously, the people in the Aliyah have easier usage than the people in the outside. Ella, why don't you say the easier usage works over here? It must be because it's less than 10. And that's how Abaya knew less than 10, the usage deal is off. Did that make any sense? Okay, I'll say it one more time. Okay. We have a kasha on Shmuel. Shmuel, who says when one lowers and one throws, the lower gets it. That doesn't seem to be the case by the two balconies. The two balconies, this guy's throwing, this guy's lowering, and in fact, they're both also like Rav. Answers the Gemara two towards him. One, there is no throwing. He's over here. They both went over here. They're both lowering. Good. Second teretz, they're within close proximity. They're within 10. Once you're within 10, we don't view throwing, lowering, nothing, zero. Where do I know that from? I know it from that picture. That picture, they have the Shus Rabbim are using the roof, the same way the people in Aliyah are using the roof. The people in Aliyah, they have an easier usage because the guys from the Shus Rabbim have to throw. They're throwing, they have much, the guy, and nonetheless, we're saying they're both usser. That's why you had to put the ladder. Without the ladder, they were both usser. But why were they usser? The guy, the Bnei Aliyah clearly have, they're like lowering. They clearly have an easier time than the Bnei Shus Rabbim who have to throw. So obviously, why don't we view the throwing and the lowering? It's because it's within 10 tefachim. So I have a raya where there's 10 tefachim. We don't view the lowering, the throwing as anything. That's the raya from the roof. So let's see that inside. We're on pay dalit amid days. Dom Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel, ki ha Dom Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. About 6 lines up. Gag has samach Shus Rabbim. You have a gag, a roof that is next to a Shus Rabbim. Sarach sulam kavua lahatiroi. You need a sulam kavua to matter it, and that they should be, that the Bnei Shus Rabbim shouldn't answer on the Bnei Aliyah. Sulam kavua in sulam aroi loy. What? My timer, la mishum, the kivin de betoich Sarah, since the Bnei Rishus Rabbim and the Bnei Aliyah and the Peset are within 10, kaima asur asri adade. Even though the Bnei Merpeset, the Bnei Aliyah, are easier than the Bnei Rishus Rabbim. Why? So what do you see? When they're within 10, we throw the ease out the window. That's a good raya. Maskala rapapa v'dilma kisharabim v'kafim love the kumson the sutra. The havamina is, guys, that it was hard to get it on top, and therefore was easier use. Maybe it's speaking. They're both easy to use. Both of them is easy to use. It has nothing to do with 10 tefachim. Nothing to do with 10 tefachim. The reason why you need a ladder is because they would be usher. You know why they both be usher? Because they both have ease of use. Maybe it's speaking where the Bnei Rishus Rabbim, maybe it's speaking where the Bnei Rishus Rabbim, what are they doing? They're in fact putting on the roof hats and scarves. That doesn't involve Zerika. It doesn't involve anything. The whole premise was based upon the fact that the people over here have it easier than the people of Rishus Rabbim. If the people of Rishus Rabbim are putting up their hats and scarves, then they both have ease of use. If they both have ease of use, that's the reason they're both usher. And therefore, I need to go ahead and put the ladder. But it's no raya to this case over here, where it's in 10 tefachim of each other. That's all. You have no raya. That's our Papa's point. Intense Gemara, guys. You got the cheshbon? You want the old bobblehead? Okay, I'm going to say it one more time, okay? I'm doing it one more time. Give me your best. Give me your best. Let me do it one more time. Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. This case would apparently be a raya to Rav. He's throwing, he's lowering. Shmuel says, then lower. He gets it. The guy who lowers it gets it. It's easier. He says, so no. It's not speaking where lowering or throwing makes a difference. Why? It's within 10 tefachim. That's his teretz. So that you have, when you're in 10 tefachim, we don't view ease of use in determining who has jurisdiction. How do I know that? From a really difficult case. You got an aliyah, it's with it, and Rishus Rabbim. They both have use of the roof. Apparently, the Bnei Aliyah have easier use because they're in closer proximity. Yet, we don't say automatically they get it. We say the Bnei Rishus Rabbim Aser. Now, why is that? If Bnei Aliyah, Bnei Merpeset have an easier time, according to our rule, Kol Shehu Benachas Ubekasha, we give it to the one that's Benachas. So why don't we give it to Bnei Aliyah? Why do they have to put a ladder? Because, says the Gemara, they have this within 10 tefachim. Since it's in within 10 tefachim, we don't look at ease of use. And that's how I knew by the Tumer Pesach, you don't look at ease of use. Says our Papa, you have no raya. It could be the reason why you need the latter is because both the Rishus Harabim and Bnei Pesach have ease of use, because the Bnei Rishus Harabim are putting scarves and hats there which don't involve too much. Since they have both ease of use, therefore you needed something else for the Meir Pesach, you needed the Sulam. Okay, let's go weiter. Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmuel Amar Aleph. Bar shebein shnei chatzeros. You have a bar that's in between two chatzeros. A bar that's between two chatzeros. Muflagas mikaisel zeh. It's one is separate from the other one, right? Let's see over here. Picture 51. There is no one in this alleyway. No one ever comes in this alleyway. So there's no drisas or regal to aser. The only way to use this is through the ear. The only way to use this is through the ear. If I want to go ahead and slap water out of this on Shabbos, I put a ziz, I put a little, some type of peg protrusion out there and use it. Why is that? Why is that? What's going on over here? So Rashi tells us, top Rashi, Bar shebein shnei chatzeros hapudai zumizu that are separate from each other, umafsik beinehem ke'ein mavoi cotton, and between them there's like a small alleyway, and here's the key: the ein diurim psuchim loi. There are no houses open to it that you'd say that they have rights to aser. V'habar boys they have sik muflegas mikaisel zeh aboya, and they're 4 apart. And the question is, the bays over here, why do they have to be 4 apart? The lav hachi, because if they're not 4 apart, have a tashmishay benachas, then there would be what? Ease of use. So you take a look at the picture, fellas. If this was closer than 4 and this was closer than 4, they both be of equal usage. If they're equal uses, they would be, if they don't make an eruv, they would ask on each other. If they both have equal usage and they don't make an eruv, they would ask on each other. So Memele must be speaking where they're 4 apart, and where they're 4 apart, then we don't say that. We say that what? Only the airspace. Look at Rashi continues. Next Rashi, ziv kol shehu mikois lo yarabor umamale derech aloinoi. V'chein zeh, each one can fill up their path. Even mufleges dalid lo sholti be leisr zeh al zeh, since they're 4 apart, right? Their isser will not be shared on each other because their ease of use is not easy anymore. Because no one else goes ahead and it's Mikshabash over there. There's no one else there. And continues Rashi, now, in truth, you shouldn't even need these pegs. That you should go ahead and come to use another rishus, and therefore this is only al seker that you shouldn't go ahead and make a mistake. In other words, this goes ahead and reminds you there's such a thing called an eruv. But in fact, in this case, fellas, you don't need an eruv at all, because you're mishamish through the air. It's not. It's within separate from 4 tefachim, and therefore you can fill it on Shabbos. So let's see in the Gemara bar sheb ben shtei rishuyos. You have a bar that's between 2 rishuyos. Shechatzeres muflegas mikaisel zu abba umikaisel zu abba. Each one is 4 apart. Zeh moitzi ziz v'chol shu u'mamale v'zeh moitzi ziz v'chol shu u'mamale. Rabbi Yehuda, this is what? This is Rabbi Yehuda name of Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda direi amar afilu kanyo. You can even use a reed, which is less than a ziz. Amalei by Rabbi Yosef. Hada Rabbi Yehuda. This din of Rabbi Yehuda, the Shmuel he. It's Shmuel. The Rav ha'amar in Adam oisra al chaveri derech avir. Rav has shita, guys, and this is important. Rav Shita is a person cannot aser on another person derech avir, through the airspace. So in our picture that we just showed you, right? The picture over here, this one has his airspace, this one has his airspace. Neither one can aser, and therefore there wouldn't even be a need for a ziz. You wouldn't have to put anything out because you can't aser the airspace. So Rav Yehuda, who is a Talmud both of Rav and Shmuel, he's saying al karchach, this must be Shmuel. Abaye said to Rav Yosef, this must be Shmuel, right? Because it was Rav, you wouldn't need anything at all. Now, U'de Shmuel mehecha, where do you know according to Shmuel that airspace doesn't aser? Notice, which member does Shmuel say that that you would know that airspace does aser? That airspace does aser, right? U'de Shmuel mehecha, ilay memhodam Rav Nachman Shmuel. This the previous case. Gag hasavach kushus rabim, sarach sulam kavule atiroi. That was the case of what? Of the sulam, dilma kidra papa. In other words, over here. Maybe guys feel bad. Baruch, we joined us for this daf, and it is a killer. Anyway, it's going to send you away again. This case. Why is it B'nai Rishus Rabbim answering on them? It must be because he holds you could asa by throwing stuff on it. So you see Shmuel who said this thing that B'nai Rishus Rabbim must be the asa because of airspace. Says the Gemara, no. What's your raya? Maybe the asa because it's ease of use, because of the hat and the scarf. Says the Gemara, Kidra Papa. Maybe it's like a papa with the hat and the scarf. So you have no raya. You have no raya according to Shmuel that airspace asses. So where's Shmuel's source that airspace asses that you would need the ziz sticking out the window? Elamiha. Obviously that's the case. See, and the Rabbi never heard it. Good. Time with the ufik. The reason why they can fill up from the pit is because they stuck the peg out the window. So very geschmack. So in other words, Abaye hadn't heard Shmuel's din. He hadn't heard Shmuel's din. Had he heard Shmuel's din, he would know this is exactly where you learn it from. When Shmuel requires you to put this out the window, you must hold his airspace uses can asa you, and his airspace uses can asa him. Therefore, you have to put it out the window, and that's how he knew. But according to Rav, fellas, since Rav holds Ein Adam Iser, a person airspace does not aser, it would be unnecessary to put the ziz out the window. This is a little easier Gemara than the previous Gemara. Okay, so far, most of the guys are awake still. I'll take that as a positive, and we're good. Now, Uda Rav Mehecha, how do you know Rav guys holds that the airspace does not aser? In other words, you proved Shmuel from Ziz. We said Rav holds the airspace doesn't aser. Where do we know that from? That according to Rav, the airspace doesn't aser. Uda Rav Mehecha, Ilay Memahon, Shtei Guzitrois, Zula Mailamizu, Asa Mechitzel, Yoina, Vlayasa Mechitzel Tachtoina, Shtei Masurois, Ache Yarvu. Right. In other words, the case of our two balconies. And we said that the mechitza is in the elyoina, not the tachtaina. They're both aser. Ad sheyarvu, till you make an erev. V'am Rav Huna amarav loishanu ele besmucha. Avul mufleges, if they're four tefachim apart, elyoina muteres. The elyoina would be mutter. The tachtaina asura, and the tachtaina would be aser. Now, if the airspace would aser, fellas, why don't we say the airspace of the tachtaina is asering on the elyoina? Again, the reason why they're both aser because they're samach to each other. If they were four tefachim apart, the elyoina would be mutter and the tachtaina would be aser. But one second, the tachtaina can throw into the airspace of the elyoina, yet that doesn't aser. So apparently you have a raya according to Rav that the airspace doesn't aser when the airspace of the bottom doesn't aser the top. Says Gemara, you have no raya. Because dil meshayni hacha, the kimin dil zeb is rika v'shilshel. The guy on top is it has the guy in the bottom has to throw and lower. And the guy on top can lower. It's in other words, like this. Let's go back to the picture and we'll get it clearly. If this was 4 tefachim apart, says Rav, this would be mutter and this would be asar. Question: can this person throw over here? Absolutely. They were saying the tashmish of the avir doesn't asar. That's the raya to Rav. And for the Gemara, maybe you have no raya. Maybe the reason this is mutter because he only has to throw. This is he only has to lower. This one's asar for 2 reasons. One, he has to throw his bucket over here. And 2, he has to lower it over here. So it's not because of airspace that this is mutter and this is asa. This is mutter and this is asa. It's because of ease of use or difficulty of usage. And therefore, you have no raya yet to Rav Shita that the airspace is asa. A mutter. Elamihad. Rav Nachman Amarava. Baravu Amarav. Okay. Let's see the picture.
Laser, why did the guy on the left balcony have to use that tunnel mechitza thing, but the guys on the opposite sides of the water well didn't have to use anything like that?
Everyone had to use this. Here's a Carmelist, Steve. You can't go from a Carmelist to a Rishus HaYachid. What this apparatus does, it creates it as a Rishus HaYachid. This is the inverse of this. So you had to go through the hole.
The alleyway in the other case wasn't a Carmelist.
No, it wasn't a Carmelist. No, it was a Rishus HaYachid. This is a Carmelist, right? Good. Okay, now here's the case under discussion. Okay, here you go. A guy lives in this house and a guy lives in this house. Once upon a time, there were people living here, but now it's a churva. So you have 1 churva, 2 churva, 3 churva. Churva is 1, 2, and 3. This guy can use here, and this guy can use over here. Neither one can use over here. Why can this one use over here? Because he has ease of use. It's right by him. Why can this one use over here? He has ease of use. It's because of him. Right? Now, why don't we say that this person, when he throws over here and this person throws over here, it asses? Because we hold that the airspace does not asser. We hold, since his shtamshus, the usage, is only through the airspace, it doesn't work. Good? In other words, the fact that he can throw over here and he can throw over here is not going to stop me from being able to use that, because his shtamshus usage through airspace doesn't work. This is how Rav knew it. The Gemara is going to ask, if that's the case, why over here is it asur? They're only throwing it into, right? They're only throwing it. The Gemara is going to answer, it's not speaking about that case. It's speaking about this case. This, us asur, because they both, it's not 3 in a row. It's not a railroad house, guys. In the Havmin, it was a railroad house. In the Teretz, it's a triangle. So they both have rights to this third curva. They're both in there. That's why it asks, but nothing to do with airspace. So that's Rav's raya. That's going to be Rav's raya. That airspace does not ask. Elamihadam Rav Nachman Amar Rav Ravua, 3 lines in the bottom, Amar Rav. Shnei Batim, you have 2 houses, Ushlosha Churvas Beinehen. And now in the Havamina, you have 3 in a row, right? 1, 2, and 3. Zem Mishtamish B'Samah Shalom, the guy on the right uses the one in his right to his left. Shalom, the guy on the left uses the one on his right, right? al yedei zrika, v'zeh v'samach shloi al yedei zrika. They both go ahead and use al yedei zrika. So look at let's do the last Rashi on the page. Okay? Zeh mishtamesh b'churva smucha loi derech haloines al yedei zrika. Each one can use the chaloin that's there through throwing. Hoil ve'ein lo ba tashmish gomer b'choil. She'ein lo ba pesach b'suach lo. There's no opening to it to make it easier than throwing. El chaloin in el chaloin. Ein pirtzas hamechitza seres. The pirtza of the mechitza doesn't make it aser. Umutal ishtamish b'kula. V'hu ein yachal ishtamish derech chaloin l'merachik. But he can't use through the chaloin all the way to the other end. El al yedei zrika. V'chavero ein oiser alav, and his friend doesn't aser. V'afa pishem ishtamish ba b'choil b'zrika. And even though during the week he can throw it all the way, that's the key. That pass from his all the way to the other guy's churva that's next to him doesn't answer. That's Rav Shita. That's how we know it. Good. Now that we have a good raya to Rav. Now the question is, if Avia doesn't answer, it says v'em soy aser. It says the middle one would be aser. Now, if Rav holds that eight of them Israel Chaverei Derech Avir, why is the middle one aser? And we'll see. And you know the answer. I showed it to you because it's a tripod, it's a triangle, right? And they're both open to it. It's not that you have to go through 1 and 2 and 1 and 3 to get to 2. It's directly into the tripod. So they both have rights there, and therefore it asks. So you know the answer to the question. Yosef Rav Bruna Ka'amar Lo Shmaitza. Reb Bruna was saying the sugya of Rav, and Amalei Reb Elazar changed the gear. Some Reb Elazar Barbe Rav Yom Talmud Chacham Amar Rav Hachi. Did Rav really say this? Did Rav really say this? That way, Rabbi, he couldn't believe that Rav would say that if the middle one be Asr. Now, if the middle one is Asr, we got a big problem. Says Rashi, Amar Rav Hachi Pitmiya. The Rebbe Eliezer Savar, Rebbe Eliezer held. When Rav said the middle one is aser, in other words, initially, fellas, Rabbi Eliezer held the following. He thought, he said, she said, right? He thought, fellas, that the reason why the middle one is aser is because him throwing the airspace can answer on him, and him throwing the airspace can answer on him. Good? Yes? Guys, look. 1, 2, 3. 2 is usher. Rebbe Eliezer heard 2 is usher, and he mistakenly thought the reason 2 is usher is because usage through the airways could usher. Yes? Good? Now, if he held that, why would one be able to be permitted over here and over here? It's because it's easy to use. It's easier, and this is easier. Question: Rav holds if they're both easy and the same ease, they're both usher. So therefore, he mistakenly thought since it's usher over here, right? It must be because the avir asers, and the reason it's mutter over here is because ease of use. In fact, fellas, Rav held the following. In fact, Rav held the reason why I can use this and this is because our airspace doesn't answer. And the reason the middle one is answer is because there is no middle one. Because it was 1, 2, 3 out here. So it was a mistake that Rebbe Elazar made. So I'm going to read the mistake into the Gemara. Nachamel, Yosef top line. Yosef Rav Bruna Kamalo Shmaitza. Amalei Rebbe Elazar. Babe Rav to Rav Bruna, Amar Rav Hachi. Does Rav really say that you could use the 2 outer ones that's next to them? Amalayin, Rav definitely said it. So said Rav Elazar to Rav Bruna, Achvele Yeshpiza. Go show me where Rav is staying. So Achvele showed him where Rav was staying. Also Kamei de Rav. He then came out in front of Rav. He came in front of Rav. Amalei. Amar Hachi, did you really say that you could each one can use the churva next to his own window? Amalei, Rav said in. So Amalei, so said Rebbe Elazar, 1 second. if you hold that the middle one is asa because of airspace, then the only heter to use the one next to you is because ease of use. In other words, in fact, Rav, guys, take a look at the picture, please. In fact, Rav held you could use this and you could use this because the airspace of this guy and the airspace of this guy doesn't answer. Nothing to do with airspace. Rebbe Lazar mistakenly thought it was airspace because of here. This is asa because of airspace. So if this is asa because of airspace, what's the reason in the world you could use this and this? It must be because ease of use. But Rav said when they're both ease of use, they're asa. So that's why Rebbe Lazar had a problem. So look at the Gemara. When they're both difficult, right? And even when they're equal, certainly they should be asa. So how can you say that? So Amalei, Misaris the Kaimi Kishura. Do you really think it's like this picture 1, 2, and 3? And the reason it's asa in the middle over here is because I say airspace is asa? No! I hold airspace as mutter. Since I hold airspace as mutter, it's mutter over here and it's mutter over here. Why is the middle one asa? Because we're not speaking, it's 3 in a row. The Kaima Kechatsuva. It's like this. 1, 2, 3. This one, you have to go through this churva. This one, you have to go through this churva. This one, they both directly go from here to here, from here to here, and that's why it's asa. Even though you're all muted, I feel that heavy silence, like what? What in the world are you talking about? Yeah. That's I'm gonna give it one more time. Guys, I'm gonna give it one more time. No pictures. Take a look at me, we're gonna do it one more time, okay? No pictures now. Take a look. Dr. Ben, unless I see you, I don't want to see your hands, okay? And certainly not your feet. Now, says the Gemara. You have the picture, right? Guys, you have the picture. Here's your picture, right? Two guys, each one can use the churva next to them. Good? There's two possibilities why you could use that churva. One, whatever rights this guy has, the ears that he can throw in there, we don't care. Because Rav holds that the airspace of usage of an airspace doesn't answer. That, in fact, is the real reason. That, in fact, is the real reason. There's a second possibility. Ease of use. This guy can use it easily. Of course, it's within 4, and this guy can use it easily. So therefore, since it's easy to use, you're good. Rebbe Lazar mistakenly thought it was because ease of use. Why did he make that mistake? Because there was one more churva that we thought in the middle. And the only reason to ask in the middle was because of airspace. So if middle is asked because of airspace, that's reason number 1. It must be the 2 outer ones is because of reason number 2. But reason number 2, Rav himself contradicted that because he held reason number 2 is usher. So therefore, Rav, he didn't understand. Came along Rav and told Rebbe Lazar, no, Yingala, Barbe Rav, you're making a mistake. The reason why the middle one is usher is not reason number 1. It's not because of airspace. It's because both of the houses are opening up into it. Because it's not a railroad 1, 2, 3. It's 1, 2, and this one 3 is they're both open into. Therefore, since that's us for that reason, the reason why 1 and 2, the reason why the ones that are next to me is mutter, is because I hold airspace doesn't answer. That was the dialogue. Okay. Weiter in Torah in Yerushalayim. Amalei Papa L'Rava, Lema Shmuel, Lesley Drabdimi. Shmuel held airspace does answer, guys, right? Shmuel held airspace does answer. Now, way back, a long time ago, I can still remember. I lost Harold. Guys, remember this picture?
What page are you on, Liz?
I'm on page 17. The guy sitting there on the two spots. Can you see it? There he is.
The hobo picture.
The hobo picture, right? So he's sitting, see that right over there. So that's a Makam Batur. It's less than 3. So he said if he goes from Rosh Rabin, he could sit on it. He goes to Rosh Yachid, he can sit on it, provided you don't switch places. Because sitting on there is not considered a hanacha. It's not considered putting down something. So l'chayr, that's the same as airspace, where you don't put something down. So the assumption is Shmuel, who holds airspace would aser. He would ask you to sit down in a place that's less than 4 by 4. He would ask you to sit down in a Makom Patur, not because of Haitzah, but because the airspace can aser. So that's what the Gemara wants to say now. Fred the Amar le Papa le Rava lema Shmuel leslei the Rav Dimi. Let's say Shmuel does not hold the Rav Dimi. The Chiyas Rav Dimi Rav Yochanan Makom she'ein by Dalad al Dalid mutal lebnei Rishus Rab lebnei Rishus Yachad lechat evelav. But either one can go ahead and rest on it. Ubevad shlo yachlifenu, provided they don't switch and go from Rishus Yachad and back and forth. You can't play both sides of the fence. Excuse the pun. Says so. L'chayra, in other words, we're zustelling a makam hanacha or a lack of a makam hanacha to makam patur. I mean to avir. And the Gemara answers hasam rishuyas deraisa. Over there, he does hold a Rav Dimi. And over there, we're not worried that you're going to go from Rishus Rabban to Rishus Yachid because it's a din of Eitzah, and that's the Raisa. Hacha Rishus Rabbanan. Over here, the airspace is Rishus Rabbanan. So over here by the bar, where the airspace of the other one and the other guy can answer, therefore we will mark it. Amalei Ravina Ravava. Mi Amar Rav Hachi. Does Rav really say the airspace is mutta? But Itmar. You got 2 houses on 2 sides of the Rishus Harabim, right? And you're throwing something. Now you're throwing it over the airspace of the Rishus Harabim. Now anything above of 10 tefachim is not considered Rishus Harabim. So in fact, one should be able to throw from one side of the Rishus Harabim to the other side of the Rishus Harabim. You should be able to go from here to here. So now, according to Rav, you can't. According to Rav, you should be able to do it. Because the air going out of here does not answer. So the idma shnei batim shnei tzidei rishus harabim. Rabbi Rav Chana Amar Rav asa lizrek mizel lezeh. It's asa to throw from one to the other. Ushmul Amar muta lizrek mizel lezeh. Now, according to Rav, why should it be asa? Bishlei mishmul, you could say by the Raisa you didn't need the chizik, and by the Rabbanan you needed the chizik. But like Rav, who holds airspace is muta, why can't I throw from one to the other? So Amalei lav mi okimna. Did we not go ahead and say it's speaking where they weren't, one was higher than the other. The midli chad umitati chad. One was higher and one was lower. And zimna the man you're going to go ahead and throw the nafel. It's going to fall down. The asila suye, and it may come to carry from Rishus Harabim into Rishus Yachid. So einachinami al airspace. It is mutter. That's not what you're worried about. You're worried about it throwing, falling down, and then carrying it from Rishus Harabim to Rishus Yachid. And since you're worried about that, we're not going to let that go.
Laser, by the hobo picture, how can the thing he's sitting on that's less than 4 by 4 be mutter, but the air over it be usher? If the makam itself is mutter,
that is a makam patur. That 4 by anything that's less than 10, anything that's less than 4 tefachim, right? And less than 4 is a makam patur. Anything that's less than tefachim and 4 is a carmelis. Anything that is 10 tefachim and or less and less than 4 is a makam patur. A fire hydrant. That's so. Therefore,
who held that the air over this less?
We're not zustelling that the air. We're not saying that at all. No, we're saying the following. We're saying just like over there, when you sit down, it's not considered you put something down. It's very similar to airspace. That's what we're saying. We're not speaking about the airspace over it. We're zustelling the patur of makom patur to an airspace. Okay. Guys, who all had it, I'm gonna cut it here, and we'll continue tomorrow. I think that you, I feel like the dentist, you know? I gave you enough for one evening without Novocaine. Have
Beautiful.
a good night.
Good, thank you.
Shkoyach.